All right, all right, all right. I got to pull up my notes here, but guess what? I got to the post office today and 3 logs of Alp were waiting on me. That's right, 3 logs of Alp. I got my Alp. So we're rocking and rolling. And as most of you know, I quit smoking after 28 years. I could barely breathe. I couldn't even walk like down my driveway, which is about 800 feet, without getting short of breath. I couldn't do menial tasks, work in the yard, do all the stuff I really enjoy doing without losing my breath, being totally exhausted, bending over, huffing and puffing, having to take a break every 20, 30 minutes when I'm used to working for like 12 hours a day. And I was like, this is ridiculous, man. What have I done to my lungs? I've totally destroyed them. I mean, back when I was in the military, we'd run 5 miles a day, and I was still smoking 2 packs of cigarettes at that time, 2 packs of cigarettes every day at that time. And I would still get up and 4:30 in the morning and go run 5 miles every morning and then go do what I had to do. But man, as I aged, smoking for so long, it really started catching up with me. And that last year, I really noticed a big difference. So I put down the cigarettes, I picked up the nicotine pouches, no tobacco, and I love Alp. I've tried On, I've tried Zen, I've tried Rogue. I've tried all kinds of different brands of nicotine pouches. Alp is the best by far. The flavor lasts for hours. It keeps me satisfied. They have 3 milligrams, 6 milligrams, 9 milligrams. They have wintergreen, mint, and I think coffee. They have 3 flavors. It might be cinnamon, but anyway, doesn't matter. I don't, yeah, I'm a wintergreen guy. I like the wintergreen. The wintergreen's my favorite. So go follow the link in the description below. Get 10% off your order of Alp. Plus, if you order $70 or more, you can get free shipping. I do reoccurring orders every month. I get 3 logs, which is 15 cans, and that'll last me the entire month. Usually I have a can or two left over by the time the other stuff gets here, but it's always nice to have a little bit of an overlap, especially when you have a situation like I had last month with the UPS because of the postal service uh, where Alp is shipped from. They were having some issues up in the Northeast with the post office, and so they ended up using UPS, and UPS delivered my package to the wrong address. And I still haven't found it. Um, I'm kind of giving up on UPS. I don't think I'll ever use them again. If I got to ship anything locally or internationally, I'll probably use FedEx. I won't use UPS anymore. It seems to be one of their characteristics is losing shipments, whether it's for me or for my wife. So I think I'm pretty much done with even considering the use of UPS anymore. But this is not a UPS fest. This is an out commercial. So go to the link in the description below to get your 10% off your first order. Order $70 or more to get the free shipping. Put it on recurring order, and therefore you have that Alp coming in constantly, and you have your nicotine fetish totally supplanted. So we're good to roll. Kyle Matovcik will be joining me in just a moment. And we're not even talking politics. We're talking the blues. So get your Alp and stay tuned. This is going to be fun. All right, all right, all right. Here we are. I told y'all I'd be back with Kyle. He's here. How you doing, Kyle?
Good man, good. Good weekend. My scalp's a little tender. Just finished setting up some treadmills and stuff around the house. So we're kind of trying to make the Matovcik household into like a fortress of fitness and kids and dogs and music and all that stuff. So it's going well though.
You got to be careful where you place that stuff because, like, whenever she starts learning how to crawl and walk and stuff like that, she'll be pulling herself up on stuff.
Mhm.
And if she tries to pull herself up on one of them bikes, she'll probably try to use the pedal and it'll rotate and she could fall.
Yeah.
So you be careful with that, just like kind of watch that.
Yeah, we got a stationary bike in the corner in the basement, and there's a lot of stairs going down to the basement, and it's not likely we would ever
Oh,
have
yeah.
her down there by
Babies are
herself.
excellent on stairs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
They're like
So, uh,
slinkies.
yeah. Doof, doof. It's funny, back when I used to have hair, there's a spot on the back of my head where hair doesn't grow. And back in the 90s, some walls had the finish of like spiky almost, like I think they would just kind of like dab the paintbrush on the wall to give it like a certain finish. And
Well, it's a
we had that kind of
texture.
finish. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was at the bottom of the stairs in the house that my brother and I lived in until I was like 5 years old. And I went like tumbling around the corner, and my brother shoved me down the stairs. And it was a decent bit of stairs. So I go tumbling down the stairs and I hit the back of my head on the wall, and it cuts my head open. I had to get a couple stitches in the back of my head. And yeah, there's still a scar back there where hair don't grow. And I got scars all over me from getting stitches when I was a kid. But we all kind of made it through. I'll hopefully make sure my daughter doesn't do that.
Yeah, yeah. Just be careful with some of those things because you don't like some of like the stuff that kids hurt themselves on. You don't even think about it. You
Hmm.
know, like I have a scar right here from when I was a little
Yeah.
kid. From like I was like 2 years old, 3 years old, something like that. I was chasing a cat around my grandparents' house, and I tripped and I fell. And I hit my lip on the coffee table and just split my lip open. And there's
Oh,
there's still a scar there. You know, so yeah,
man.
you just got to be careful what like how you set things up, especially something like a stationary bike where that, like I said, the pedals are a little bit more of a hazard than most, objects you're going to have. So, but if you had it
Mhm.
down in the basement, I mean, as long as you don't go don't like frailty and locker in the basement for, a number of years, you should be
No,
okay.
that's what we do with the dogs right now. They were not happy with their their demotion from
Yeah.
upstairs down to the basement, but they're kind of used to it now. And um I kind of like it a little bit more because now they, as soon as I let them out of their beds, it used to be they were in what's Riley's room now. So I'd let them out and then they'd bolt out the door and then bolt down the stairs. Now they can kind of like bolt out of their beds, do do a lap in the basement real quick, and then run up the stairs. Um, I don't know, kind of works out a little bit better, but yeah, eventually they I kind of figured, okay, well, they're gonna have to get the boot. And we also just like cleaned up a whole shitload of junk. And I can't tell you how good of a feeling it is. In fact, I'm sure you know, but when you get rid of just like junk, we had like two treadmills, two AC units, a chair, a grill that was all rotted out, and a stove that we recently replaced. And like some of this, it was, oh, and a big ass TV, like a big old school projection style TV. We just had all this shit sitting around the house. The TV was fine, but like we couldn't do anything with it. The treadmills broke, they didn't work anymore. So we finally just loaded it on my father-in-law's trailer, and they have a junk day up there. So hopefully there's no one up in Ford City listening to this right now. And we put it up there, and yeah, they're gonna take it all away. And I'm like looking around in my basement, like, holy shit, there's a lot of room down here when you just don't have junk.
Y'all need more Mexicans. Y'all got to stop voting for Donald Trump, man. You need more illegals there. You could throw a 30-year-old freaking stove out by the road here down where I
Mhm.
live, and within 10 minutes it's gone. Some redneck or Mexican's gonna fix that
Mhm.
damn thing and make it work. They're gonna figure something out. It don't matter how useless you think it is. You put it out by the road, somebody's picking it up. I put out
Yeah.
a freaking one-wheeled wheelbarrow out there with
Mm.
rotted freaking handles. I threw it
Mhm.
out there. Within 5 minutes, somebody had picked that damn thing up. I don't know what they're going to do with it. Maybe plants, or something like that. I'd
Yeah.
used it for that one, but it was rusting through. So who knows? I mean, maybe it's a welder. Maybe they're going to weld it back together. I don't fucking know what they're doing. They'll just pick shit up. They're like, I'll make something out of
Mm.
this goddamn thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of this stuff was in the house, like the treadmills were, but you can't really do anything with a treadmill that doesn't work. So I was so happy to get rid of it. And then now we got walking pad, or a walking pad and a treadmill. So everything's like back to normal. I want to have one in the house, so we're good. And then I ordered a power cage, which is kind of like the squat rack, and
Mhm.
has like cables and everything for a home gym setup, because I'm going to cancel my gym membership eventually when I have sufficient equipment at home and just work out in the garage rather than going to the gym all the time. So that way, I could take Riley out there and, sit her down something, turn the heater on. She'll be okay. I can watch her. I don't have to worry about, letting the dogs out and then putting them back in their beds. Just everything's here. We're self-sufficient.
I was you saying that I was watching just before coming on here, I was watching a roast battle
Mhm.
from the Comedy Mothership in Austin,
Mhm.
and Tony Hinchcliffe is one of the judges on there, and there's this guy on there named Lemire. He's this fat black guy that's a
Mhm.
comedian that shows up on Kill Tony every once in a while. And one of the roasters was this big fat white dude. And so and Lemire like voted for the fat white guy, and Tony Hinchcliffe goes, "That's
Mhm.
obvious. Y'all look like y'all work out at the same diner." Fucking legend,
Yeah.
man. Tony Hinchcliffe is such a legend. He's so funny.
He's really good at it. Did you I've watched like Theo Von stand up and
Theo's
it's
funny.
funny. Yeah, oh, Theo's hilarious, but like his stand up isn't that good. But just like listening to him in conversation, he is absolutely fucking hysterical. Like just his regular, when he had Donald Trump on his podcast, he was like, "Oh yeah, I did like LSD and I felt like I was a mechanic." Just like casually saying that to the former president. Just like what? And then
Yeah.
he was telling Joe, he did Joe Rogan's podcast one time and he said something about like leaving a blender on and he had to tell his landlord to go let him back in. He said he was having a party and there's nobody in there and his blender's just on. When he told his landlord he's having a party, just like the casual shit he said is hilarious. But like I watched his stand up, I'm like, he's funny, but just him being him is way funnier.
Yeah, I mean, there are some, I think there's just so many, like, when you get into like your 30s and your
Mhm.
40s, you've seen so many legendary comedians over your years.
Yeah.
So you watch like a Theo Vaughn and you're like, yeah, it's funny. I like it. I'll watch it. But it's not Bill Hicks. It's not Sam Kinison.
Right.
It's not George Carlin. And so, but we're comparing all comedians that we watch today next to like Richard Pryor, and it's
Yeah.
like not everybody can be Richard Pryor.
Mhm.
And so, one of the funniest stand-ups today is Bert Kreischer. He is so, I
Mhm.
mean, like I'll be crying watching his stand-up. He is
Yeah.
so funny. Or I just watched Andrew Schultz's new special last night. Life. Oh my God. Dude, I
Mhm.
was dying. I was dying. I couldn't breathe for half of the freaking show. I was just like, oh my God, this guy is so funny because of the way they put things together, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just a special talent, man. And so yeah, and I'm gonna just keep hitting you with like movie references like Frailty earlier
Yeah.
until you start watching all this crap.
Yeah, you know what? I meant to I was talking to the guys on Post Zero yesterday and we were talking about watching Terminator 2 because I still haven't seen it yet. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go see it. And then I just got busy doing shit around the house and I ended up not watching it. But everyone keeps saying, oh yeah, Terminator 2 is way better than the original Terminator. And like that, I'm sure everybody knows that almost never happens in any kind of movie. It's always like the first movie is always the best. The second one is usually hit or miss. Like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But to hear like that seemed to kind of happen with like Alien and Terminator, where like a lot of people seem to like Aliens more than Alien, and then Terminator 2 more than the OG Terminator. So
Mm.
yeah, I gotta check that out because like those old action movies, um, they hit different. Like there's not good media out there like that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you look at like the Rocky movies, they're all about
Yeah.
equal, which is rare. Usually movies start
Very.
falling off, towards the end. And a lot of times it's because a new writer picks up the movie. So
Mhm.
you're not dealing with the people that wrote the
Right.
original. You have somebody else hired in there that's hired to write the second movie, and they don't really have like the same vision for what the movie is. And so that'll
Yeah.
do. I think, man, I don't know. I mean, there are some sequels that were better than the original. I'd say like Rambo, the sequel, First Blood Part 2 was great.
Mhm.
Um, let me see. I'm trying to think. Uh, Young Guns 2 was really good. I liked it. I really enjoyed. I don't know if it's better than the first one, but it was really good. It was really entertaining, you
Yeah,
know.
maybe like Star Wars Episode 5, what would have that been? The Empire Strikes Back, because yeah, the original was A New Hope.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that since I was like 6.
yeah. I would think Episode 5 would have probably been a little bit better than Episode 4, but I haven't watched them in. probably a few years. Last time I watched them is when Sarah was getting into Star Wars because I was like, hey, we should watch The Mandalorian, and just like from there she got super into Star Wars. So we watched those a couple years back. But in our opinion, her and I kind of agree on this is that like all the shows are a lot better than the movies. But yeah, I would think the second Star Wars movie is definitely better than the first.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, the
that's
second
fair.
trilogy.
I don't really remember. I mean, I know I've seen them, but I never
Yeah.
saw the newer ones that came out that were actually older, like whatever
Yeah.
kind of retardation they did with that crap. I don't know what the hell was going on with that. But
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I was like, I remember watching the first Star Wars when I was a kid, and they're like, no, you couldn't have because the first Star Wars didn't come out until last year or some shit. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know, but
Don't be
yeah.
too autistic about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what are you? It's like, whatever. I saw something when I was a kid, and it was called Star Wars. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
just some people can't let their autism get the best of them. I think I might have been talking to you about this, but I think I pointed someone, they were asking for bands like Gojira, and I'm like, you're not really going to find a band like Gojira per se, but if you're looking for like heavier bands of that era, like Trivium is one of them, and like they're not a political band at all. And this dude just happened to go to the one song, and it's literally only one song in their entire catalog of like 10 plus albums where they cry about like racism and
He would love
homophobia.
Machine Head.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But like he was like, "Oh, they're crying about this stuff," and then I was like, "Okay, well, check out Sons of Texas because they're like a real groovy, bluesy kind of band, and I love them." And then he's like, "Oh, these lyrics are." I'm like, "Dude, relax your autism, enjoy the fucking music because if you're gonna sit here and pick apart every single lyric of every single fucking band you ever listen to, you're gonna end up hating everything except for like Ted Nugent and Kid Rock." And like, I don't get me wrong, I love Ted Nugent, but I couldn't listen to Ted Nugent all day, every day.
It's hard to find a better like all American rock song than Stranglehold.
Yes.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, that is just
Uh,
that it just screams America, you
yeah.
know? And
Mhm.
yeah, so I mean, I don't have any issues with Ted Nugent. He's just like the most
Yeah.
American rock star ever, and it's amazing. He was
Mhm.
so good.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
exactly. The Great White Buffalo, White Bear, what the hell was the what we used to play one of these songs, Dog Eat Dog. That's one I
Dog
used to
Eat
play in the
Dog's a
Echo
great
Band.
song.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just like he's the perfect example of like the exception in the music world where most people are either like apolitical or like left leaning just because I think it's the way naturally people's temperaments are who kind of get into the arts. But Ted Nugent's just not that way. Like despite him being kind of like a boomer on most stuff, he's just like an impressive fucking person, a hunter, knows a lot about politics and is just an absolutely incredible songwriter. Like that is somebody that I think everybody could admire. You could agree with him on whatever. Like his kid's a fucking, I think his kid's like a vegetarian or something like that, even though his kid knows all about
I think
hunting.
so.
But
Yeah. Yeah, I
but
think so.
like you just have to look at the span of his career and just be like, you know what, that dude, it's fucking impressive to still like,
Hmm.
they called him Sweaty Teddy for the longest time because his performances, and he's still out there doing it at like 70 years old. And the fucking dude looks great too. So
Hmm.
he's an example of
His
health.
He
Yeah.
was raised on a military base, I believe. I think his dad was
Mm,
like a high-ranking officer in the military, and he was
mm.
raised in a very strict household, which is why he never got into alcohol and drugs real
That's
heavily.
right. Yeah, that too.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, unlike the other right-wing musician Dave Mustaine, who was a maniac.
Yeah. Yeah. And
He's got a lot of people like the Megadeth's old stuff, which I love. Like, don't get me wrong, like Holy Wars is an amazing song, and like Tornado
yeah.
of Souls was great, and like I love all that stuff. But man, I thought 13 was a great album.
Really?
Like, I
I
loved that album. I was like, this is a really good album.
I didn't.
It had like a
Well,
different flair to it. There was something different
yeah.
happening there. I really enjoyed it though. I thought it was a very underrated album.
Okay, yeah, I kind of understand where you're coming from, and I liked it. They had a song with David Dryman on it, and some of those songs on that album I did like, but I thought the one before that, Endgame, it was the first album with Chris Broderick.
Mhm.
Love that
That was a
album.
great album too. Yeah.
Just a couple weeks ago, I was thinking about there's a song on there called How the Story Ends, and I just remember listening to the solo and just being like, what the fuck did I just listen to? But yeah, Chris Broderick was only with them for it was Endgame, 13, and Super Collider. I think were the three albums that he was on. But
Okay.
Super Collider was probably like the worst out of those three. And like when we say worst, we're talking like Risk. Like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't necessarily like Megadeth's peak kind of stuff. And then when they came out, not This Thread Is Real, but it was the album that they put out in 2016, and it was the first album to feature Kiko Luriero. I didn't listen to that album back, front to back. And that was also the first album that they had Soilwork's old drummer, Dirk Verbeuren, who's
Yeah.
just a fucking
Dirk's a
animal.
monster, dude.
Yeah.
Did you see him on
I like
that?
that
Did
one.
you see him on Drumeo?
No, no, you know what? You were telling me about that
Dude, you got to
where,
watch that. That's
yeah.
so entertaining to watch, man. You
Yeah,
get
that Dirk.
jazz drummers playing Nirvana. Like, it's so
Man.
cool.
I think of just one of the albums that really got me into Soilwork. I liked them, but I really got into them when they put out the Panic broadcasts, which is
Mm,
when it was 2009 and one of their guitar players had just left. And, I think he was like the original guitar player. So Soilwork had been around since I think like early 90s. And that was their original guitar player who left, and they got this other guy in. And I remember when I first put on that album, like, holy shit, this album is fucking incredible. So it opens up with one of my like favorite songs ever. Late for the Kill, Early for the Slaughter. I still feel like I could like deadlift a dumpster off a fucking hospital building, listen to this song, because it's just like this light guitar riff, and then Dirk does this crazy fill and it goes into a blast beat. Like it is just the most epic opening track ever, and it's so intense. And yeah, just kind of thinking of that and thinking of the way that just like Dirk would play, just and then blast beat and just fucking in your face riff. I just love that fucking song. That whole album, front to back. Two Lives Worth of Reckoning is the second track on that, and that has like this real killer breakdown. Yeah, I love that album.
See,
But yeah,
that
for
is
him, yeah.
from that era, like to me, like I know you like to talk about like Trivium and there was, God Forbid and Kill Switch and all these bands from that era. I hate the fact that Shadows Fall gets overlooked so much because for my
Man.
money, that was the best. That was the best band of that era.
Mhm.
Like that genre, like
Man.
Shadows Fall kills everyone as far as I'm concerned. I've
I,
seen
I,
them.
I,
I saw them like
yeah.
3 times, dude.
Mhm.
Like I love Shadows Fall.
I like them a lot too, and I used to have a lot of their CDs. They just put out a new song last year called "In the Gray," and sometimes you're like a little cautious of when bands come back because you're like, I don't know how this is gonna be. But when they put that song out, I listen to it. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is Shadow's fault. It's fucking
They're killer,
wicked.
dude.
Yeah,
They're one of
and
the baddest fucking bands, man. I love Shadows
yeah.
Fall. And and I just feel like they're just always overlooked. I don't know why that people
Mhm.
overlook them so much, but I'm like, they are so much better, in my opinion,
Mhm.
so much better than any of the other bands that came out at that time.
Well, they had like a consistent discography too. I think of two bands when I think of like the new wave of American heavy metal that kind of had like a consistent discography that always hit. And that was Unearth and Shadows Fall, right?
Mhm.
Lamb of God was like a little bit, they were kind of in and out of that realm, if you will. Like they weren't necessarily
They're
metalcore, but
more, I think they're more groove metal.
well, yeah, exactly. But they're more
Yeah.
kind of like you would put them closer to death metal and groove metal rather than like metalcore because they didn't have a lot of
Mm.
singing until a
Right,
little bit
right, right.
later.
Right, right, right.
But obviously, when Randy finally did step in and start doing singing, like that most recent album, Omens, was fucking incredible.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, Unearth and Shadows Fall both kind of had really good discographies, and they kept getting better as they got older too. So, like, Fire from the Sky was Shadows Fall's last album. I think it was 2011 or 2012 they put it out, and I love every single track on that album, front to back, and the mix on it's incredible. And it really, for them, showed like a more mature direction for them. I actually got their CD. I remember going to Walmart and getting Retribution, which was their 2009 album, and they actually had a cover of Bark at the Moon on it.
Mm,
And yeah, I love that album. But big ups to Jonathan Denias, who I have to imagine for him, it had to be like a dream come true. So you're a kid back in the late 90s, right? And you start playing with the bands, Bleeding Through, Trivium, Chimera, Hatebreed, Lamb of God, God Forbid, you name it. All those bands from what people commonly dub as like the new wave American heavy metal from like primarily 1998 to about 2007. All those bands that
mm,
really blew up around then. You're one of those guys. So who are your biggest influences? Pantera, Metallica,
right.
Anthrax, Slayer, um, bands like that from the
Death.
80s. Death, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you're Jonathan Denies playing in Shadows Fall. Your band decides to call it quits in 2012, and then you get asked to play in fucking Anthrax. Like, if I like just imagine that. It's like I get to play in the band that I grew up listening to. And
Mm,
granted, like Anthrax's albums with him, they're not stellar, they're not bad, but they're okay. But
yeah.
still, it's like I just know that he's probably in that band, just like this is my dream. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to do anything else. And I've seen them with him, and they kick ass. He plays great. Scott Ian's never played a guitar solo in his life, but Jonathan Denies and the rest of those guys, they're just awesome live. And same with like Suicidal Tendencies. They're all old, but
Mm, yeah.
I think I've seen them twice, and it's just so funny because it's a bunch of old dudes running
I,
around
you know
all
what's
on
funny?
stage.
I've never seen Suicidal Tendencies
Uh,
play live, but I met them backstage at a Typo Negative show because they all right.
yeah.
So I used to work when I worked in Austin um, years ago. One of the girls I worked with was dating a guy from the Bronx. He
Mhm.
had gone to high school with Peter Steele and all the
Oh
guys from
wow.
Suicidal Tendencies. They all went to high school together.
Yeah.
So he got us backstage passes for, I think it was, God, I could be misremembering this. It was definitely Typo Negative. It was what was the name of the freaking Dez's first band?
Full chamber.
Cold Chamber. It was Typo, Cold Chamber. I want to say it was System of a Down.
Mhm.
No, Static X. Static
Mm.
X.
Wow.
And so we go to that show and we hang out and then they bring us backstage during the Cold Chamber set. So we're backstage hanging out with Peter Still before they Typo goes on stage because
Mhm.
Typo was closing the show
Yeah.
and they were headlining. And the dudes from Suicidal Tendencies were back there and they're all sitting around like everything's perfectly normal while Peter Still works out Nate butt ass naked. It's like we're in this like green room and this
Uh
big freaking muscle bound dude is sitting there with a
yeah.
weight bench just butt ass naked like working out and everybody's just chill back there drinking beers smoking joints and it's like am I the only guy person that sees this naked ape right here? Like
He was like Peter Still was like 6'7" or something. He was
he was
huge, right?
huge. He was 6'7",
Yeah.
6'8". Yeah, he was a big
Ooh.
dude, and he was
Yeah.
just swole, man. His
Yeah.
biceps had to be the size of my head. Like he
Jesus.
was a monster, dude.
I remember, I think it was a interview that I want to say it was Maury. He was on there and he was talking about he's like, oh, I live with my mom or something. And a girl came to my house butt naked in the middle of winter saying asking for me. And he's like, my mom calls me down and I tell her, well, honey, you might want to put on some clothes. You'll get a cold out there. Yeah. To only be, that fucking Peter Steele, all 6'8" of him. Yeah, man. I got into type of negative a little bit later. Like I want to say I was probably in like high school and it was kind of like an acquired taste, but once you get into it, it's like, oh yeah, this is awesome.
Dude, their cover of Cinnamon Girl was great.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much everything they touch, they put their own flavor to it.
Yeah.
I remember my one buddy TJ, I never smoked weed or anything like that, but he used to do like edibles and stuff like that. So we were probably like 15 or 16 at the time, and he ate an edible. I'm like, all right, I wonder how it would be if you were just stoned listening to like Cinnamon Girl or one of their like
Black number
slow ass
one.
tunes. Yeah, it's something real slow. And I just remember watching him, and for the people listening, he's just sitting there in the fucking chair, just for like 10 minutes straight.
Dude, the weirdest experience I ever had getting high listening to music was the Toadies When I'm Away,
Mhm.
that intro, that
Mhm.
it seemed like it went on for like 10 minutes. It was just like, I swear, like the notes just hung like, nah, nah,
Mhm.
nah, 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 nah. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if my weed was laced with something or what. It,
Mm.
it did happen back in the 90s sometimes. But yeah, I remember listening to that and going, what's going on?
It's like Bored to Tears by Black Label Society. At the very end of that song, um, they hit a power chord and there's like a little drum fill, but they edit it so that way it would just be like ba-bow, ba-bow, and then the drum fill would keep playing.
Mm.
I have to imagine it was probably like that. Like you're expecting the song to be over, and then it just goes da-dam, ba-dam, ba-dam, just over and over and over again until it
Yeah, I'm just
slowly fades
like,
away.
well, you got to realize I knew all the Toady songs by heart. Like I knew the
Mhm.
lyrics to all their songs, so I knew the songs very well.
Yeah.
And like I was like, this intro has never lasted this long ever before. Like what is happening? What is happening to my mind right now?
Yeah.
But I mean, all this like leads us into what we wanted to talk about is blues in music. Where has blues gone in music? Like I know like there are like bands, like legendary bands, like Down.
Yeah.
They keep blues. Like you're never gonna have a Down song
Right.
without some blues riffs in it. Like my favorite is Eyes of the South. Like that intro
Yes.
into Eyes of the South is so killer, and so bluesy and so southern. But they're a southern metal band. They're a sludge metal band. Sludge metal
Yeah.
is naturally a southern thing, you know. I mean, there's a lot of punk influence in sludge metal as well, but there's also a lot of blues influence. Like if you listen to like Crowbar Planets Collide, you can hear a lot of blues influence in it. Like
Yeah.
you're not going to find any blues influence in I Hate God, but Mike Williams is a different cat. That's just the way he does things.
Yeah. You
So you
still
said
see
you
it.
said you could
Yeah.
talk about this forever. Like, let's go. Let's get into this.
Okay, so I want to share something with you because this guy is okay. It says you'd have to enable screen
Yeah,
sharing
I
for me,
gotta I
but
gotta do that.
um,
I gotta
it's
figure out.
not quite as common anymore. But like you could still hear it in a lot of heavy metal. Like you could even hear it in like the way Mark Morton plays guitar from Lamb of God.
Yeah, but
You could
these
tell
guys have
where,
been around forever. That's what I'm saying. It's these new
yeah,
bands that are coming out. I'm trying to figure out how to do the screen sharing.
that's all right.
I was not
You
prepared
may
for
have
this.
to like hover over my name or something like that.
Is that what
And
I
if
do?
not, then we'll be able to figure it out
Wait,
some different way.
that might be it. I know I've
Okay,
done it
let's see.
before.
Host, no, it's still there. Let me
Uh,
see. Professional podcasters.
I'll put you in the waiting room.
Hey, I said podcasters, not podcaster. I use the plural.
Allows for recording. Okay, it's not there. Well, God damn it. I don't see. I know I've done it before. I just don't know where I find it at. It's not. This is how
The
we do
guy,
it, people.
yeah, the guy I'm
We'll
trying
do
to
it
pull up
live.
is Jared James Nichols. I was telling you a little bit about him, but his whole thing is blues power, and he's singer and guitar player who just shreds bluesy as hell. And Um, I think about like modern day rock, and it's so disappointing because I remember I'll play a playlist just to kind of get like some background music going at work. Maybe I'll be able to pull one of these up. And like just the modern rock bands today, they're not even like
Got you.
rock anymore. Okay, you did?
Who can
Okay,
start sharing when someone else is sharing?
let me see.
Post
Oh, okay, here
only.
we go. Show me your best.
Good.
Share.
I know I'd find
Okay,
it.
can you? Okay,
Hey, it's
this.
Ted Nugent.
Yeah. So this guy's Jared James Nichols, and you'll know his influence right away.
I can't hear it. Um, Hold on. I can't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear it?
No. Let me see.
Okay. Hold
I've had this
on.
issue before. Sometimes you got to turn on sound.
Yeah, it might be on
Who
my
can
end. I'll request
share?
permission. Oh, share sound. There we go. Okay. All right. You can hear it in the way that he bends.
some Stevie Ray Vaughan in there.
Yeah, but it's like the soul of it. I remember my one friend that I used to play with in a cover band. He he told me, he's like, yeah, I always heard that you couldn't play blues unless you lived it. And it was kind of corny, but it also stuck with me. And you could definitely tell that with certain players. So, occasionally I'll scroll through like Facebook Reels and whatever. Like if you click on one titty girl, all of a sudden your entire Facebook Reels feed is now titty girls. If you hit one guitar video, then all you get is guitar stuff. You hit one cooking thing, then you get it just they auto populate your feed with whatever you just click on one video of.
Hmm.
So the one day a video of Joe Satriani came across, and there isn't a single person on the world who wouldn't listen to Joe Satriani play and think like, wow, he's not one of the like he's one of the best guitar players living
Yeah, he's
today.
incredible.
Yeah, exactly. But you tell that dude to play some blues, and you don't get anything, right? Like
Mm.
you don't get what I just showed you in that clip right there, where you feel the way that he bends. Like there's something there. He could play it, he could dance his way around a pentatonic scale, but there's just something about the guys who can say so much with so little. And that's exactly what you're hearing there. Dime did the
Yeah,
same.
okay. So I would equate that with like journalism versus like somebody who writes novels, right? Like
Sure.
because like I wrote a lot when I was young, right? Writing
Mhm.
poetry, writing songs, writing short stories. And the whole point of my writing fiction or poetry or whatever, it was to express some sort of emotion, right?
Mhm.
And so like the blues is a very emotional kind of like guttural kind of feel to it. Like you gotta
Yeah.
like, and that's what people mean by you gotta live it. But everybody's had heartbreak or disappointments or whatever. Everybody's like experienced these things that they could tap into to
Mhm.
to get that. But can you channel that into the sound, or are you just like a technical player like Joe Satriani is? Yeah,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Okay, well, and then to take this even a step further, you cannot, and especially like a live version of this song, Midnight Blues by Gary Moore. I'm getting chills just thinking about it, but listening to that is just like an experience. Gary Moore was one of these people who could really just tell a story with a song, and like anything he touched was always pure genius. I mean, it's why like one of the most ubiquitous guitar solos ever is Still Got the Blues, right? Do do
Mm,
do 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 do. And just in also like people always talk about the reverb on Parsian walkways or whatever it's called. That song just he was one of those people that could shred. He could melt some fucking faces. But I'll tell you what, he could also just make those bends sing as long as the day is. um Someone like Yngwie Malmsteen could never do that.
mm,
And he
yeah.
could play neoclassical in a way that Gary Moore never could, but you're not going to get the same feeling. Like and this is something that isn't easy to like distill down to words. Where like I listen to somebody like Tosin Abasi, and I'm sure if you dug in through the Animals as Leaders discography enough, you could probably find something that is pretty enjoyable and you get a good feeling out of. But like
Hmm.
I don't know, man. You'll never get that same feeling out of like the outro to Floods or the
Mm,
solo in Floods, where Dime just makes it sing. Like there's just something about guitar players like that who can really just they say so much by doing so little. Like Floods is not a complicated solo,
no, yeah,
but to play it right is what separates kind of like the men from the boys, if you will. And
yeah.
in this respect, there's not a lot of men. Like I really try to create this stuff when it comes to like a common crown. And like I think I've had a few of these moments. I remember the first time I ever went in to record, it was If You Want by Common Crown. And I like the song. I don't think it's like any stellar masterpiece, but I'll never forget the look that everybody in the room gave me when I was recording my solo. And it was the very, very last note because I have like a little tapping section in it. And everybody turned and their faces lit right up as soon as I laid it down. And
Mm,
I think when Randy Rhoads did Crazy Train, when Zach Wild did No More Tears, when Dime did Floods, when Gary Moore did Still Got the Blues, et cetera, et cetera. People did that same exact thing. They're like, their faces lit up as soon as they heard
Mm,
that, like, that's it. Like,
yeah.
you just laid down a masterpiece. Now,
Right.
once again, I'm not saying If You Want is on that. It's not, and it never will be.
Right.
But there's just certain musical masterpieces that you just know as soon as you hear them.
Right.
Born Under a Bad Sign by Albert King, for example.
Mm,
Everybody
hmm.
knows that song,
Yeah.
and that's exactly that too.
They may not know his version, but they know the song because like
Exactly.
Cream covered it, wasn't it? Wasn't it
Mhm.
Cream or was it
They
the
might have.
Animals? It was either the Animals or Cream. It was
They
one of
might
Eric
have.
Clapton's early bands.
Mhm.
Anyway, um, so yeah, so what brought this up in my mind was I was listening to Zeppelin, and Since I've Been Loving You came on. And
Yeah.
dude, I love the intro to Since I've Been Loving You. It's like
Mhm.
one of the greatest blues intros ever in the history of music. And I was like, whatever happened to this? Why don't we do this anymore?
Mhm.
It's like, where did this go? And it's rare that, somebody can cover a song that touches you more than the original. Like, we're going to listen to Voodoo Child here in a minute because I want you to be able to kind of break it down as we're listening to it. And it's like an
Mhm.
8 minute song as it is, and I know you got to go here in about 30 minutes or so.
Mhm.
So I want to get through that. But like you bring up Zach Wild, dude, he did my favorite cover song ever in the history of listening to cover songs, Whiter Shade of Pale.
Oh, love that
Dude,
song.
I'll
Love it.
listen to the original. I don't get goosebumps. I listen to
Yeah.
Zach's version. I'm damn near tearing up. It's just
Yes.
so beautiful the way
Well,
he
yeah,
plays
and
it.
Zach, he's another one of those musicians where it's like I know people recognize him as like a great guitar player and they hear like all his solos and like his usual pentatonic runs, which are cool, but like they're nothing insane. He is so much more talented than people
Mm,
even realize in that
right.
respect.
Yeah.
There's if you look up Doom Troopin', which was like their 2008-ish DVD where they played over in Paris, and if you watch the backstage footage, he's doing all this sweep picking and different scales and just shit that you never hear him normally do.
Mm,
But people go to see Zach Wild to hear Zach Wild.
right.
Um,
You're going for an hour and a half solo with a few songs mixed in.
right, exactly. So to your point, Whiter Shade of Pale is a perfect example of this. And if you listen to Shot to Hell was their 2009 record, and I think it was the only record they did with Roadrunner Records. There's a song on there called The Last Goodbye. And like on
Mhm.
the record, it's good, but there's a piano version, and it is just a million times better than the CD version.
Dude, in this river live at Dime's funeral.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah,
my
there's
God.
there's not many tear jerkers are in that, but
Yeah.
like that there's certain music videos that are like masterpieces, and In This River is one of those
Mm.
absolute like cinematic
Mm.
masterpieces.
And
And
it's not a complicated song. It's actually fairly simple,
no.
fairly straightforward, but it's just powerful.
Yeah. And that's in that respect, I think Zach is underrated, where people don't recognize him as a musician, they recognize him as a guitar player. And don't get me wrong, he
Well,
is
he's kind
one
of
of my
goofy
favorites.
too, wearing like
Yeah.
horse heads during his freaking music videos and shit,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm,
But,
but yeah, it's all like the interviews I see of him, he just seems like the coolest person in the world. Like, and if somehow this does get to Zach Wild, then you should let me interview you. But that
damn
being said,
straight, damn
yeah,
straight,
like
dude. That'd be so
he's
cool. I mean, that'd be like whenever I interviewed Matt Brown. Like that's just
yeah,
like one of those cool moments where you're like,
yeah.
holy shit, man, I've been a fan of you for like half my life, and here I am, like I got your phone number. I can just text you when I want. It's like so fucking weird, man.
Yeah, but Zach is he's always seemed like a very, very charismatic character, and all the interviews, he's super funny, down to earth. And I love what he tells stories. And he always like adds in like a little fluff, like, oh, this is what I got to do. You got to please mom, you got to please the boss. And he always see like I loved hearing his stories about doing the Pantera tribute tour, where he's like, I see Dime everywhere I go. He's like, we're practicing doing sound check and I see a license plate that says 333.
Mm,
Or, I see Dime doing this. I see Dime doing that. He's like, he's just always with me.
yeah.
And just it's beautiful when you hear him talk about that kind of stuff. And like I know people poo-poo it, but like from his perspective, that was like a brother to him. And then Phil and Rex both want to respect the brother's legacy. The very introduction has a little silhouette of Dime and Vinny right before they, start playing. And then
Yeah.
on their headlining shows, they play the intro to Cemetery Gates before they play. They'll play a song typically like right after it, but it'll be the intro to Cemetery Gates, and they'll show all like these home videos because Pantera was famous for
Right.
the vulgar videos from
Yeah.
Hell, Dime Vision 2, and it's just videos of Dime running on the beach with a guitar, them blowing shit up in the hotels and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's
I
it's a
remember
very
those.
very
I
cool
remember
thing.
those videos back when I was a kid, man. I was like in high school watching that shit.
Oh, dude, it was such a bad influence on me because we're like fucking 14-year-old kids. I'm like, yeah, let's do Roman candles in the basement.
Shooting fireworks off of each other's heads and all kinds of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, what's the worst that
Yeah.
could happen?
Yeah. I had a hat catch fire on my head one time because I was shooting
Mm.
bottle rockets out of it.
Oh yeah, my brother got me once with I was sleeping and he came up to me and lit a firecracker right in my face and fucking it blew this giant ass piece in my fucking lip and I had this giant fucking sore right on my lip from where he fucking popped a firecracker in my face.
Well,
Yeah, people.
when we were little kids, right, we had these things, they called them penny rockets.
Mhm.
And they look like black cats,
Mhm.
but they had like a little point at the end and they had a stick attached to them. And you
Yeah.
would hold them and you would light them and you would just hold them. And then as it freaking shot out, you just let it go. We would have
Yeah.
penny rocket wars. We'd shoot them at each other. Like it was like
Yeah.
normal shit back whenever I was
Mhm.
young. Like those things, like shooting each other with Roman candles. Like
Yeah.
that shit was just normal shit when we were younger. Lawn darts. That was like normal things. Now, like, oh my god, everybody's gonna die. You know,
Yeah, I
it's
think
like
that went away
survival of the
about.
fittest, bitch.
Yeah, that I think most of that went away about 10, 15 years ago because it definitely what I was. There's still a video on my Facebook, and I think it's probably dated about 15 years ago that we put together of recording us shooting each other with fucking Roman candles in the basement. And oh, my mom was so fucking mad, but you know, is what it
Yeah.
is. I'm pretty sure I still have the hat in the basement. It was a monster hat I got when we went on our field trip to Washington, D.C. And if someone fell asleep, we would tape firecrackers to the hat and then light them when they were sleeping. Yeah.
That's about as funny as drawing a dick on somebody's face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little more dangerous, but it is
Yeah,
what
a
it
little
is.
bit. But I mean, you got the bill there covering your eyes. You're gonna be okay. You'll
Yeah.
live. Quit
It'll
freaking out, you
scare you for
pussy.
sure.
All right. Let's do this. Let's do this. I can't wait. I can't believe you never heard this version.
I probably have, but it's definitely been a while.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Jimi Hendrix. To kind of add on while you're pulling that up there,
Uh-huh.
everybody knows the outro solo to Little Wing. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a radio show I used to listen to all the time. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. Radio show I used to listen to all the time. Their intro
Uh,
was Little Wing. It was freaking awesome. I
mm,
loved it. It was a morning
yeah.
show back in Houston.
Yeah,
All
that's one
right.
of those songs you just can't do.
Yeah.
Fargo is your virtual assistant from
Of
Wells
course.
Fargo.
Oh, come on, come on.
Fargo lets you do this.
Fargo.
You tell me to pause whatever if you want to pause.
He's got the vibrato down.
He's got what?
He's got the vibrato down. Like there is a that's
He
another
had
thing.
this unique sound too. I've never
Yeah.
heard anybody duplicate his sound.
Well, it's like a very, very light distortion, but the vibrato there is very, very important. I don't think people understand just how like that's a thing. Like when I think about a lot of the guitar players that are coming out today, like the more heavy metal guys, I
Mhm.
love them, but part of this blues groove that you and I have kind of been talking about all throughout the show, a lot of that does depend on a certain kind of vibrato. And, there is a certain tone to people's fingers when it comes to how they play, how they map themselves to a guitar. And
Does that have to do
I
with
know
pressure?
sort of, but also like who is my buddy Jack, that's right. He's learned to play guitar, and you could tell when somebody just hasn't figured it out yet. Like, and there's no way that I could teach somebody how to do this. It's just a matter of time of, like I said, mapping yourself to the
Mm,
guitar. And obviously, every single guitar is gonna be a little bit different, but there is a certain ability when you're learning to play of just kind of becoming almost one with your instrument. And
mm.
the way that you could see that he handles the guitar when he's playing, and just the consistency of the vibrato is his, the excellence, how he's basically become one with his instrument. And I know this sounds a little woo-woo, but that's really what it is, just
Yeah, it's
people's
like it becomes an
ability to.
extension of well, it's like me driving a truck, right?
Right.
Like you may be able to get in a rig and move it,
Yeah.
but you can't do what I can do in it because I've been doing it for
Right.
22 years. It's like
Yeah.
basically like backing up an 18 wheeler for me is like sitting down. Like it's what I do
Mhm.
every day. It's like not a
Exactly.
big deal, So
Yeah.
yeah, like I get what you're saying. It's just, it's that practice makes perfect. Like the first time you got in that freaking standard transmission automobile, you couldn't fucking drive it worth a shit.
Mhm.
And you could tell people that were just learning how to drive it based upon somebody who's been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
It's just a smoother kind of thing. And so, yeah. And that's why I asked if it has to do with pressure, specifically on his left hand on the fretboard, because one thing I've always noticed about people that are really good at playing guitar, it seems so effortless. It's like they're not
Yeah.
really like trying. And I know part of it is because the muscle memory, but it
Mhm.
seems like a lot of it is they've got this like the pressure down to just like what they have to put out and not necessarily
Yeah.
like overdoing it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's exactly what it is too, is that there is a certain happy medium of where you want to be, because if you press too hard, then you can kind of, get the note a little bit too sharp. There is just like a certain point where it feels just right. And then, maybe in some situations, like Dime and Zach are two very different guitar players, despite the fact that people always kind of like loop them two together. Zach is a very heavy-handed player when it comes like his leads. But when you
Mhm.
think about Dimebag and the way that he played leads, when he would do bends, yeah, he'd be pretty heavy-handed about it. But like one signature thing that I always think of when I think of Dimebag Daryl is his just legato, the smoothness of, like, if you listen to Primal Concrete Sledge, that little run at the very end of that breakdown is just like dime. Or you think about the cover of Planet Caravan, some of that like real silky smooth legato that he does in there. That's where my mind goes when I think of Dimebag, is like chromatics, the minor or the harmonic minor blues scale, and just that signature sound that he always had. Whereas
Right.
Zach's a little bit more heavy-handed,
Mm.
real wicked vibrato with heavy distortion, wicked bends, and really fucking hard picking.
Yeah.
And you can hear Stevie Ray Vaughan doing a little bit of this too, where like it's almost like you're doing a pinched harmonic, but you're hitting it in a way that you get a little bit of the note, but you also get a little
It's like
bit
he
more.
slides on it. It's like
Well,
a
yeah, there's
slide
that.
or a
Yeah.
hammer on that he's doing with it. It's like this weird kind of, I don't know.
Mhm.
I know what you're talking about because I've noticed it in some of his songs, and it's like there's a little pinch there, but like he comes off of it so fast and he's sliding into something else so
Mm.
quickly. It's just like this smooth, like kind of ring that just kind of buzzes in the air.
Yeah, well, and like if you listen to Zach Wild, any of his bends, that's a lot of what he does. It's just like
Mm.
when you hear him really do the sustained long
Yeah,
bend, that's the
which is
same
people make
thing.
fun of him for, which is funny, but it's like,
Yeah, but that's like his signature thing, and it's because he's a
but
blues
like
player.
I got to say before we get any deeper into this,
Yeah.
like Zach Wild, Stevie Ray Vaughan's voice is tremendously underrated. He's a
Mm,
very, very good vocalist, and
mm.
because his guitar playing is so incredible, people just forget that he sang so well.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, let's get rolling because we can sit here and talk about Zach and Dime all day long. Also, it looks like he uses a very light string. There's a lot of flexibility in his strings.
Yeah, so Billy Gibbons actually uses, if I remember correctly, he uses actually like a 7 gauge string. So for reference, most people will use like a 9 or a 10. So for those listening, I'm gonna hold up my Diodario NYXL 1052s. This is what I use for drop C,
Mm.
right? My drop D stuff is 946. So 46 obviously being the thickest gauge, and that's my low E string.
Yeah, you
Um,
got to use a bigger string. Like if people don't understand, you got to use a thicker string when you're dropping because you will
yeah.
break strings when you're like I broke one of my bass strings a few months ago going to drop C. So,
Yeah.
it happens.
Well, it's also like the amount of tension that's going to be on that string. So yeah, this pack right here is a pack of 946s, but like um the blues players like to have the thinner strings because the vibrato, there's a little bit less fight, but there is once again, there's another happy medium of like you want to have a little bit of a fight to the string so that way you don't overbend it, but
Mm.
you don't want to have too tight because then you can't get the right bend out of it. So if I had to
So,
guess, he would probably be using like eights, maybe nines or eights.
okay.
For me, 946 is comfortable for me for all my drop D stuff. So like my Raven that's sitting right behind me here that I'm looking at, that one's 946. My other Jericho is 946, and then my Wild Audio is 1052. My Hard Luck Kings 1052. I used to use like 1156, but those strings are pretty fucking big at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Standing next to mountain, chop it down with a tonight. Standing next to mountain, chop it down with a tonight. Think of all the pieces that survive. We're gonna raise some tide. 'Cause I'm a voodoo child. God knows I'm a voodoo child.
Okay, so he's playing the pentatonic scale, which is everybody will tell you the simplest scale in the world. It is the simplest scale in the world to play, but
Not
it
like
is
that.
undoubtedly it is undoubtedly the hardest one to master. And Stevie Ray Vaughan is a master at the pentatonic scale
Mm,
because you could not. I could sit here and show you the pentatonic scale all day, every day,
hmm.
and I'd probably sound pretty fucking good. In fact, I do think I would sound pretty good, but I wouldn't sound like that.
Mm.
It's a matter of just
So
you either got it or you don't,
okay,
right?
so
And this is
what do you see that he's doing differently than Jimi Hendrix did?
honestly, I don't really hear or see anything different in respect of like he's going above and beyond what Jimi Hendrix did. It's the feeling that he's able to kind of distill down into it, where like
Okay.
I think if you took, let's say for fuck's sake, Rob Flynn,
Mm.
I'm sure Rob Flynn could learn Voodoo Child
Just
easy.
so everybody out there knows, Rob Flynn is a synonym for pussy.
Yeah,
I just wanted to get that out. I
essentially.
just wanted to clear that up so everybody knew what we were talking about here.
Um, but he's a singer and guitar player from Machine Head, who I absolutely love. They write fucking awesome music. Rob Flynn is a little bit of a
They
shit lib,
used
not a
to
little
write
bit.
awesome music.
Their newer stuff still is pretty fucking good. I
No,
gotta say that
it's
their newest
fucking,
album was
it's
fucking
fake
awesome.
and gay.
But he could learn Voodoo Child all day, every day, but he will never play it like Stevie Ray Vaughan did, right? And you and I think yesterday were talking about power trios, and this is a cool example of a power trio. And what's very, very impressive about this kind of situation is that you don't have another guitar player to carry you. Now, granted, with like this kind of music, you could be a little bit more loosey goosey in some respects, but you also have to be tighter in others. So, like, you can't fall way off as a bass player or the drummer because you don't have anybody else that's able to step up and take your position. And for those just listening, he's playing kind of like, your standard chords in between, and then he'll go up and do a lead, but it still sounds full. Like that art, like a lot of bands don't really do stuff like this anymore.
Right.
And it's kind of disappointing to me because like it's such a unique kind of sound. Like so many bands are going over to like having tracks playing behind them. So
Mm.
for everybody listening out there, if you come see a Common Crown live, we don't have backing tracks. We don't have backing vocals. There's a band, backing vocals in like MP3 tracks playing behind
Right,
whenever
right, right,
Jen's
right.
singing.
Yeah.
You hear me or Matt singing behind Jen,
Yeah.
which takes time, takes effort, and
And
it
there was no
isn't always
better,
easy.
there was no band better than at that than Alice in Chains, right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah. Right.
just to
Where
rid you of that backing vocal, that backing track. They just mastered that.
so I was listening to a band at the gym and we played with them once, Paralandra, and they're fucking awesome.
Mm.
They're like a newer rock band. You would probably dig them. They have a female singer, and funny enough, the singer is a female,
Dude, I
and
already
her
like
dad.
your band. I can't fit more than one female singer in my life at a time.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know?
well, yeah, I know the misogyny is pretty tough for me
Yeah,
too. So
yeah. It was like I was a Heart fan, and now I'm a Common Crown fan, and that's about it.
Um, but she when we saw them, the other guitar player in the band, because she sings and plays guitar, her dad is actually the other guitar player, which is pretty cool. And she is a phenomenal singer, but she kind of goosed it a little bit with some backing tracks, but like still her vocals alone were still really good.
Mm.
So um where I was going with this is basically like this power trio and what we're watching right now and what we're playing right now is Stevie Ray Vaughan and his bass player and his drummer. And for him to make it sound full and play these leads over top and go back to chords, and it's a really, really fucking difficult art. And they managed to just blend this very, very, very well together. And Jimi Hendrix did the same thing. I remember reading Jimi Hendrix's biography. Not obviously one that he didn't write, but when somebody saw him playing in a club, they recall watching him with two fingers play a rhythm and the other two fingers playing a
Playing a
lead, and
lead.
then
Yeah.
using hybrid picking, what's called, or chicken
Mm.
picking. And he's playing one rhythm, with his thumb and his pointer finger, and then with the other fingers playing a different riff. So
Right, right.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
and for people that aren't musicians or aren't like as like into music as Kyle and I are, because we're like music dorks and we just love this type of shit. So those of you that are sticking around listening to this, basically what Kyle's breaking down is the bass and the drums have created this kind of barrier, and they've made this space for Stevie Ray Vaughan to exercise within. Let's think about like UFC terms. They created the octagon, so they are the cage that holds the fight within. And then Stevie Ray Vaughan is able to manipulate all that space within that octagon in order to
Mm.
play lead and rhythm at the same time whilst doing the vocals as well. So Stevie Ray Vaughan
Yeah.
is basically taking on three instruments while within this confined space that the bass and the drums are holding together. They're basically holding together the reality of the song.
Mm. Yeah, and I talked to my one service advisor about this because he actually used to record professionally, and it's so interesting when you kind of break it down to like the numbers idea of this, where like guitars occupy a certain range, bass occupies a certain range, drums
Mm,
occupy all different ranges. Like, you have the bass, the toms are a different frequency, and then like the splashes and some of the cymbals also kind of have different frequencies. And when you think about how these all blend together, it's really beautiful to think that, like, okay, well, the guitars are in the mid range, the bass is in the low range, the drums provide a little bit of everything, and then the vocals are also in a certain range depending on what the singer's register is. Where, I would say Stevie Ray Vaughan is probably like an alto or a baritone almost.
right.
Jen would be an alto or a soprano, and basically all different singers are going to have different registers. And um there's some singers who have like a wide register. So basically, that's like someone's vocal range. If you think about a singer like Miles Kennedy from Alter Bridge, he has, I think, a four octave range where he
Yeah,
could sing very,
he's an
very deep.
incredible vocalist. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. He could sing very,
Or
very low
what
and
was
very,
his
very
name?
high.
Chris Cornell.
Exactly. Yeah. Like,
Robert Plant. Like there are some
mhm.
Janis Joplin. There was somebody I remember watching a documentary on Janis Joplin one time, and this guy was breaking down how she would hit four notes at one time.
Mhm.
And that's just like that's something you can't teach. That's just
Yeah.
natural talent. But hey, we got to dive in, man.
Yeah.
We're running short on time. I got to get you to 5 till midnight on time.
I didn't need to wait on your time. Give it back to you each and every day.
Okay. Right there.
Mm,
So what I love about what he's doing right now is kind of the dynamic of it. And obviously it's in the original Voodoo Child as well, where they're kind of, slowing it down and bringing it down, getting a little bit more gentle. He's
mm.
singing a little bit softer, and then the
The Doors did that a
bends.
lot too.
Yeah, exactly. To change the dynamic of the song. That's
Well, it's
something
like
that's and
it's like theatrical.
yeah, but it's I we have a song called Gemini, and at the very end of it, it's probably our longest song. And at the very end of it, we have like a little clean part, and we normally go into the reckoning after that. And I kind of love that dynamic because normally it's just Jen and I. So Jen kind of sings very softly, and
Mm,
then I hit one final chord, and then Matt counts off into the reckoning, which starts off with an open C. So
mm.
just kind of like the ability for musicians to have a dynamic. This is kind of what's lacking in a lot of like to go against my own bias, like more heavier bands, is that a lot of them don't have this dynamic. And even like a lot of bands just don't have that anymore.
Mm.
They don't slow it down, get a little bit more gentle, and show a little bit of a different side in one song. Like they may have one whole song that's a little bit slower and more mellow, but to kind of go all over the place, that's a phenomena that's vastly underused in that Stevie Ray Vaughan and obviously Jimi Hendrix both really displayed very, very well in a lot of their
I'd
music.
say the one band that I can think of that still plays, well, I'd say two bands that I can think of that are still like active modernly that do that would be like Pearl Jam and Tool.
Mm,
Like
yes. Yeah.
yeah, And they do it in two different ways, but they both like get that theatric kind of like
Mm,
to draw you into whatever they're doing. Yeah.
mm.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't mean to take up all your sweet time. Give it back to you each and every day. If I don't see you in this world, see the next one. Don't be late, don't be late, 'cause I'm a voodoo child. God knows I'm a voodoo child.
See, right there, it sounded like he's just running the scale. Is that what that was? That where it was like it almost sounded like a count line, like do 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 do. You
Yeah,
know,
it's a
it's
little bit
almost
of
like he's just running that scale. Is that's that
Mm.
pentatonic scale you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, all the blues is largely focused around the pentatonic scale, but what separates, as I was saying a little bit earlier, the boys from the men. Anybody could play the pentatonic scale. I could teach you
Mhm.
to play it. I could teach Sarah to play it, and you'll be able to go do 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 do.
Mhm.
To play it with feeling in the middle of a verse and be able to add flavor to it is a whole other ball game, and
Yeah,
that's
and
a
it's
lot of
fluid and like everything's
it
just
doesn't
kind of
yeah it doesn't
blending.
sound right. It doesn't sound like you're going right. It has flavor to it, and that's
Yeah,
all what it's
it
about.
doesn't sound like do re mi fa so.
Exactly right. And see, like I had to actually stop and kind of think about what you mentioned there because blend so well together. I'm focused on what he's doing and I'm focused on the whole band where you don't really
Yeah,
catch,
I'll
you know what I mean?
rewind it to
Yeah.
that point because I thought it was such a smooth transition the way he did it.
Yeah.
It was actually really sweet.
God knows I'm a voodoo child.
Right here. Nope, nope. Didn't go far enough.
Yeah,
try this
I think
again.
I caught yeah.
Next one. Don't be late, don't be late, 'cause I'm a voodoo child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God knows I'm a voodoo child.
Okay, so he added in actually a minor note there. So
I can't get it to fall.
hit the space bar.
Space bar?
Yeah,
Oh.
there you go.
Why don't they tell you this? God damn it. Why did I have to like Kyle, who's never seen a movie in his fucking life, tell me to hit the space bar?
Um the main scale that Dime used, and if you learn the intro to Cowboys from Hell, it basically is the minor pentatonic scale. It's when you add that one note. So it's all like whole steps essentially. Like basically what that means is that there's two notes instead of like there's no flats or sharps in
Mhm.
in the pentatonic scale. He added a flat in there, a flat or a sharp, where the standard pentatonic scale wouldn't have that. But like that one minor note gives it a whole different. It adds
Okay.
so much to it. Literally, just one whole note could change an entire scale.
Right. Yeah.
It's so crazy, and that's what he did there to give it a little bit more like that bluesy feel, where like you could still get it, but like it adds a little bit more like dirt to it, if you will, like a little
Mhm.
bit more of like that groove, and that's that's another thing you kind of pick up on when you listen to enough pentatonic or blues players.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like maybe I'm wrong here, and
Mhm.
I'd have to go back and listen to the Jimi Hendrix version. I don't listen to the Jimi Hendrix version of Voodoo Child anymore because I just think this version is like superior. So
Mhm.
I'm just like, why would I go listen to that? And it's not because I don't like Jimi Hendrix. I like Jimi Hendrix just fine. It's just this is such a great version. Like Kenny Wayne
Yeah.
Shepherd redid it too, and like his version is worse than Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan, so I won't listen to it. I'm just like, all right,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's just whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like Hendrix incorporated as many minors into Voodoo Child as Stevie Ray Vaughan did, and
Yes.
that's one thing that when you introduce minors into a song, it brings like this kind of mood to it. There's like this mood change.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I don't think people understand that like if you're listening to like a dark, sludgy, we were talking about typo earlier. There are a lot of minors. They're playing a lot
Yeah.
of minors in their songs because there's a darkness to the minor notes that you're
Yeah.
not getting in your sharps or
Mhm.
and all that. And so that incorporation, just that little switch up can change the entire mood of an entire song.
Mhm. Yeah, like you think of if you want to hear a perfect kind of like different or what we're talking about here, listen to Let the Good Times Roll by like BB or with Brad Paisley and BB King, which is
Mhm.
fucking awesome. Like
Mhm.
I know, it's a popular thing to shit on country, but like Brad Paisley is a legitimately fucking awesome guitar player.
There are actually
And
some really good musicians that play country, like
yeah,
legitimately, like the Zach Brown band. They're
mhm,
legitimately a good band. Those are
yeah.
good musicians.
Yeah, I think I've heard some of their stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like listen to Let the Good Times Roll with BB King and Albert King, and then listen to like Alice in Chains,
Oh
Damn
yeah.
That
There's a
River.
lot of minor notes in Alice in Chains.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
like Damn That River it uses the minor pentatonic
Rain When
scale.
I Die.
Exactly. Like all that's gonna have a
Mm.
lot that one minor note, but you're only putting in like one or two notes into
Mm-hmm.
that scale from your standard pentatonic scale, and it completely changes the
Right.
mood of everything.
Right. And that's why I mean
Yeah.
that freed up Lane Staley to be Lane Staley. I mean, without
Right.
and I think part of that, a part of like this is my Alice in Chains rant. Alice in Chains no longer exists. This is freaking Bogey Depot 2.0 with whoever this kid is that's singing for him.
Mm.
It You can't do that. Like it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's because Lane Staley offered them a type of freedom to drag in these minor notes that this kid that
Mm.
sings for them now doesn't offer them. And so it's not the same band. It's not the same type of songs. Like what they're releasing now, they're fine songs for any
Mm.
other band. It's like when we were talking earlier, and you mentioned like that Trivium song, and you're like, yeah, that's a great song, but it's not Trivium. Winter Kills by Double Driver would have been a fine album by any other
Mm.
band other than Double Driver. It wasn't Double Driver, right? It
You,
was
you know,
not. It's
it's
not
funny
up
because
to
we disagree
par.
on.
It's not up to par.
Yeah.
It's just
I,
not.
I love the Water Kills, but I get what you're getting at.
Winter
Yeah.
Kills is fine if
Yeah.
like Trivium released it, but when Devil Driver releases an album, I want to hear Devil Driver. I want
Yeah.
freaking
You want to hear the
Devil
fury of
Driver.
our maker's hand.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I want Double Driver. And then they rebounded shortly thereafter. I mean, the new stuff,
Mm.
Jonathan Miller's back with the band. And I mean, I'm just like, now I'm just talking in circles because Beatrix is friends with Jonathan Miller and he's back with the band and they're
Yeah.
fucking killing it again. Like their new stuff is fucking awesome. It was
Mm.
just like, whatever. Yeah. Cover sale. Just do it as Coal Chamber because it sucks, but whatever.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So he also added the lower register at the very end there, where Jimi Hendrix, I think, stays in a little bit of the higher register in the
Mhm.
original version. And
And
yeah,
they're
just
longer versions, but I thought 8 minutes was enough for this.
I
They're
know,
like,
it's great.
dude, they're like 12, 13 minute versions of Stevie
Yeah.
playing that song. And it goes on. And,
Mhm.
I mean, he'll start playing behind his back and he's doing all playing with his teeth and he's doing all kinds of crazy
Yeah.
shit. I mean, he was a maniac, on that guitar. Like it's always impressive to see somebody that is incredible at something
Yes.
just in like a dime bag or like if you go watch like MMA, like I love watching UFC. Those guys that are just so good nobody can beat them. It's just like you watch it, it's like poetry in motion, and you're
Mhm.
like, how are you so fucking fantastic? And what would music be like if these people didn't die so fucking young?
Yeah, it's always a question, but like what you're explaining is kind of like the natural phenomena, right? Where I heard somebody put this in respect to like bodybuilding, but it applies here as well. Where like you think about someone like Ronnie Coleman, right? Who is like undoubtedly one of the biggest dudes like ever, right? Even before he was on steroids, he was absolutely enormous just because he had those freak genetics. So Sal from Mind Pump had said, "How often do you see someone walking around that's 7 feet tall? Almost never, right?
Mm,
Very, very rarely,
yeah,
if at all."
yeah, right,
That's how rare those kind of genetics are in bodybuilding. Like
right.
you're kind of Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, Chris Bumstead, those kind of guys who are just freaks in nature, where they didn't even need steroids. They're still bigger than 99% of people. That's the same deal when it comes to guitar. The vast majority of people aren't Stevie Ray Vaughan, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
vast
yeah.
majority of people ain't whoever you could bring up in the world of MMA.
Oh,
Just
well, I
most.
mean, like, yeah, Israel Adesanya, Alexander Volkanovski, like there are some like brilliant fighters out there that are just
Yeah.
amazing to watch. We got a guy right now who's it looks like he's gonna about to fight for the middleweight title
Mhm.
against Dricus Duplessis, whose name is Hamzat Chimaev, who's 14-0, and he's just a maniac, man. It's like, golly, how good are some of these guys? Like, and it's not, but it's just there's something about seeing somebody that's a genius at something, right? Like an
Mhm.
Elon Musk. You can't help but be in awe at like, wow, like maybe I have that in me for something, but I never
Mhm.
figured out what that something is. And those people that connect those dots and find it, it's like, whoa, this is
Yeah.
incredible, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of accepting your lot, if you will, right? And not to get political because we haven't talked politics at all, but like it kind of goes like the basis of what people
Yeah,
would call
we
right.
talked about Rob Flynn earlier.
Oh, yeah, I guess we did talk about a shit lib, but kind of like
But
the.
but in his defense, and I got to say this because Machine Head put out the greatest cover of Hallowed Be Thy Name by Iron Maiden,
Mm,
which is my
okay.
favorite Maiden song. I
Yeah.
got to give props where it's due. It's the only thing by Machine Head I will even consider listening to anymore is their cover of Hallowed Be Thy Name.
You should check out Rob Flynn did an acoustic cover of Die Young by Black Sabbath.
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, I
Okay. Yeah,
remember
I
when it
thought
came
that
out.
was
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it was
incredible.
good,
Yeah.
but Rob Flynn's a pussy, and I
Yeah,
don't
fair
listen to
enough.
his shit anymore. Speaking of which, did you know Mark Morton has a new album out, a new solo album out?
No, I didn't know that. He
Yeah,
did a song with Cody Jinks.
it just dropped last week,
Yeah.
I think.
No way, I
So
didn't know that.
yeah, yeah.
Huh.
I saw it. It popped up on my YouTube. I got an alert about it. I'll have to. I haven't listened to it yet. I'm wondering what it's
Okay.
going to sound like. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a
I'll send it to you.
okay, yeah, I'll check it out. There's a band, and maybe I'm a fag for saying this, but they're called Lakeview, and
You
it's
were a
kind of
fag
like,
before you said this. I'm just
yeah,
helping
all
you
right. Well, yeah, I'm a bigger fag now. But they're like a country band, but they have like metalcore roots. So they have like detuned guitars, but they still sing like country kind of stuff.
yeah,
And
but
I
didn't
love it.
detuning come from grunge?
Well, yeah, but I mean, like it's kind of if you listen to Lakeview, you'll understand. They did a song with a hardcore band called Gideon, and it's called
Mhm.
"Money Where Your Mouth Is," and I fucking love it. Yeah, I don't think you'll like it, but I fucking love it.
Is this like when the Rebel Meets Rebel album? Do you remember this?
If yeah, no, I do. I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, but like it's kind of like my generation's version of that almost. Like
Oh, okay,
obviously not as big of a deal, but kind of like the same spirit, I guess you
gotcha.
could say, where it's kind of like that country where it still meets metal. Yeah, I love Out of My Life, I think the song is called, where Dime sings a chorus, get
Cowboys do more
up, get
drugs than rock and
gone.
rollers.
Yeah. I, I've been a gambler. God knows I've been around. I love that album, dude. It's
It's a
fucking
great album,
awesome.
dude. Great album. It's
Yeah.
a really entertaining album. It's really cool.
Yeah, I loved I think it was in Dime Vision. Dime's dressed up as David Allen Coe and he flings a condom at the camera. He's rolling the slot machine. It's his big old blonde wig on.
It's so
Yeah,
awesome.
it's awesome.
All right, man. Plug and go do 5 till midnight.
Yeah, man. Well, as always, it's always good to talk to you, dude. A Common Crown. We don't have any shows till June, so we're not playing for a little bit, but we're gonna be playing a whole shitload of covers for that show, so that'll be pretty cool.
Cool.
Um
What y'all playing?
we it's the
No,
Haze and
what cover songs?
probably Praised by Seven Dust, Ain't Like That by Alice in Chains.
Ugh.
We're probably gonna
Y'all better not
do
fuck that song up.
I fucked it up Saturday night when we played it. I have the video of it, but my computer's not working
What
with
made
me
y'all
here.
settle on It Ain't Like That?
Because they used to play it in After the Fall, which is Steve and Matt's other band, but
Hmm.
they just put it on the set list and like, oh, didn't we used to play this? I'm like, no, but me and B will learn it. It's not a problem. And yeah, so we learned it.
That's
Fire Woman.
that's an interesting choice because
Yeah,
like most people would choose something from Dirt
sure.
and not
Yeah,
from
but
Facelift.
it's recognizable and plus groovy, and I've always loved that song.
Hello, like to me, and my favorite song on Facelift is Sea of Sorrow.
Mm.
I love
Yeah,
that
I
song.
listen. That's yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
I haven't gone. And
but
listened to
it
some
ain't
of
like
that.
that is a great song too. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
that was a
my
great
own.
album. I always
Yes,
said
yeah.
if I'm locked in a room for the rest of eternity and I can only choose one album to listen to the entire time, it's freaking Facelift.
Oh, for me,
Because
that's
I
far beyond driven.
it's because every time I listen to Facelift, like cover to cover, I hear something new
Mm,
every time.
okay, yeah, I understand
Yeah.
that. But yeah, we have a whole bunch of cool new tunes coming up, and then including new original music. Where the first single we're gonna put out is our song "The Blame Game," which I'm very, very proud of. I
Mm.
fucking love that song. So,
Have you sent me
um,
that yet?
I will. I'll send you some of the
Yeah, send
live
it to me.
footage. I got a new camera and it's a lot better than the old one. So the audio quality, video quality, everything's fantastic.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, we'll be putting that out here. I don't know when, but we have like dates set up for the studio and everything, so that'll be coming out soon. And
Mm.
then you're gonna release this Thursday, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if you're listening to
I
this,
still I still haven't finished releasing last week's. I'm doing that tomorrow
yeah. If
when
you're
I'm picking
listening to the
blackberries.
yeah. If you're listening to this live, then 7 p.m. Thursday night, which would be April 24th, I have Mel at Village Crazy Lady on Twitter. We're going to talk about like foreign lobbying and stuff like that. So that'll be pretty cool. Next
Cool.
week, Mike Jackman's coming back on. And then, of course, as you mentioned, 5 till midnight, where I'll be live in about 15 minutes, but yeah, every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we just kind of talk shit. So, yeah, man, as always, it's good to talk to you, man. And it was the 400th episode was really enjoyable, where me, you, and Typo just kind of shot the shit, man. It was
I
real
love
cool.
Typo, but he's always so quiet. He's like so chill. It's like, come on,
I
dude, get excited about something.
Yeah, I try to get him out of his shell every here and there, but yeah, normally like after the show, we'll sit there and shoot the shit for a little bit. But he's awesome, man. I love talking to him, and I love doing a show with him. So,
All right.
um, yeah, man.
Well, go shove some food down your throat and rub one out before 5 till midnight. You know, you got to be in the mood.
No, I could do both at the same time too. You underestimate my talents.
like Hotep Jesus.
Yeah. He blocked me on Twitter. I think I fucked with him once because he was saying something about like a $5,000 check buying your freedom from Elon when he was like gaping his asshole for Trump the entire election. I said, why the hesitation for his partner? And he blocked me. So I was like,
So he was at Renegade University at Buck's
oh,
house
okay.
in 2019, and
Yeah.
Beatrix thought it was Top Lobster. So she walked up to him and goes, "I love your shirts."
Oh, that's so funny. Top would probably hate
I was standing right there talking to him because my mom's a huge fan of his, and I'm talking to him and we're bullshitting. We were setting up a time to get him on my podcast because he did eventually come on, and she walks up and she said that, and I looked at her like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And he looked at her like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And she goes, and he walks off and he goes, "Why did he look at me like that?" I was like, "What are you talking about his shirt?" So she goes, "Isn't that Top Lobster?" I was like, "No, that's Hotep Jesus." And she goes, "Oh." I was like, "Dude, Danny's white."
Oops.
All right,
Shit.
brother. We'll stop the
man.
recording.